The unspoken goodbye. The rain was pouring hard against the windowpane the night I packed my bags. I looked around the small apartment David and I had shared for 5 years, my heart heavy with a pain I could barely contain. On the kitchen counter, I left a single note, its ink slightly smudged by my tears. It read, "I love you, but I have to save her." David didn't know it yet, but our lives were in imminent danger because of a debt my estranged father had owed to some very dangerous people. They had threatened to harm our 2-year-old daughter, Lily, if I didn't vanish completely and cut all ties. To keep David safe from the crossfire, and to protect our little girl, I had to do the hardest thing a woman could ever do. I had to disappear without an explanation. When David came home that evening, expecting a warm dinner and his family, I was already gone, swallowed by the shadows of a new identity in a distant city. For 10 long, agonizing years, the silence between us was an open wound. I raised Lily in a quiet, coastal town, constantly looking over my shoulder, changing my name, and living a life of quiet isolation. Every milestone Lily hit, her first day of school, her first lost tooth, her laughter that sounded so much like his, was a bittersweet reminder of the man I had left behind. I often wondered if David hated me, if he thought I had simply fallen out of love and run away. The truth was, my love for him had never wavered. It was the very thing that gave me the strength to stay hidden. I endured the lonely nights by holding on to the memories of his smile, praying that one day, the danger would pass and the truth could be told. 10 years later, the threat that had loomed over our lives finally dissolved when the people involved were brought to justice. For the first time in a decade, I could breathe. But time had moved on, and so had our lives. Lily grew up into a beautiful, independent young woman, and before I knew it, she was planning her wedding. She had met a wonderful man, and as her special day approached, she made a request that made my heart stop. She wanted to invite her father. She had never forgotten him, and through all those years, I had never spoken an ill word about David. I knew it was time. I agreed, knowing that stepping into that venue meant finally facing the ghosts of my past. The day of the wedding arrived, bright and beautiful. The chapel was filled with flowers, laughter, and the soft melody of a piano. I stood near the back, dressed in a quiet, elegant gown, watching our daughter radiate joy in her white dress. And then, the heavy wooden doors opened, and David walked in. My breath caught in my throat. He looked older, with silver hair dusting his temples and lines of sorrow etched around his eyes, but he was still the same David. He took his seat a few rows ahead of me, his eyes fixed on Lily, tears welling up as he saw the little girl he lost now standing as a bride. After the ceremony, during the crowded reception, I stood near the edge of the ballroom, watching him from afar as he shared a dance with Lily. When the song ended, Lily whispered something in his ear and gently pointed in my direction. David froze. Slowly, he turned around, his eyes scanning the crowd until they locked onto mine. The noise of the music, the chatter of the guests, the clinking of glasses, everything faded into absolute silence. He walked toward me, his steps hesitant, as if he were seeing a ghost. When he finally stood in front of me, 10 years of separation stood between us like an ocean. His voice trembled as he spoke my name, asking the question that had haunted him for a decade: "Why did you leave?" With tears streaming down my face, I finally told him everything. I told him about the threats, the danger, and the sacrifice it took to keep him and Lily safe. As the truth unfolded, the anger in his eyes melted into profound grief, and then, into an overwhelming warmth. He didn't yell, he didn't walk away. Instead, he reached out and pulled me into a tight, desperate embrace, burying his face in my shoulder. We had lost a decade, and the pain of the past could never be undone, but in that shared embrace at our daughter's wedding, the healing finally began.